You're on the record in case CR 25-703-912, State of Ohio versus Dy'mond Vaden, who's present in the courtroom today with counsel, Ms. Deanna Robertson, and present for the State of Ohio as Assistant Prosecuting Attorneys Carson Strang and Ben McNair. The court is in receipt of the sentencing memorandum filed by defense counsel in this matter, and the court has reviewed it and will continue to review it throughout the proceedings here. Are the parties ready to proceed? Mr. Carson?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Robertson?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so then we'll begin with the State of Ohio, and I'll have the state please advise the court as to the facts in this matter. And then Ms. Vaden, they will speak, and their side will be able to speak. Your attorney, and then you will be able to speak. Do you understand? All right. If there are people that stand in front of the court to express their thoughts, you're welcome to on both sides. There's not a limitation to that. But I would advise you that you are to direct your comments to the court. The court is allowing you to speak to the court, so you can speak to the court and advise the court. It's not to disrupt the proceedings or to speak to the defendant or to speak to the other side. Does everyone here understand that? All right, that's fair, right? Please direct your attention, your comments to the court, and the court promises that it will take everything into consideration at the moment of sentencing. So with that, Mr. Carson, would you like to begin, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Your Honor, I just want to be clear at the offset of this hearing that the state is standing before you today seeking the maximum sentence under the plea agreement, which would be 20 years in this case. I think the facts and circumstances surrounding the case support a 20-year sentence, and I'll take you through those briefly. But back in October of 2024, George Cox went missing. The last time he was heard from was October 19th of 2024, and from that point forward, he was not responding to text messages, phone calls. Nobody in his family could get a hold of him. Later that month and into November, as family members became more and more concerned about him, his father, George Cox Sr., went over to the apartment that he was staying at, looking for him, trying to figure out where his son was at. He contacted the Cleveland police when he found that apartment empty, completely cleaned out, but he saw signs of what he thought was blood that somebody had attempted to clean up inside the apartment. Cleveland police detectives, including Detective Callahan, went over to that unit on Bosworth, and they used luminol inside. And I didn't want to show the pictures here in court because it's quite graphic, but the place absolutely lit up when exposed to the luminol from blood. That blood was determined to be George Cox Jr.'s blood. With that information, police went over and talked to, a few days later, talked to Dy'mond Vaden, who he was in a relationship with at the time. Dy'mond obviously denied knowing anything about his disappearance. She claimed that she had never been in that apartment, but they saw some boots inside her apartment that appeared to have blood on them. She said that those boots weren't even hers, that those were actually George's boots. And police took the boots and they tested the blood for DNA, and it happened to be George Cox's DNA. During that time, George's brother Jamari had a conversation with Miss Vaden that he recorded actually. And in that conversation, she absolutely denied any part in his disappearance. The conversation was about 11 or 12 minutes long, and during the course of that conversation, she gets repeatedly angry when he's confronting her about where's my brother, and she kind of resents that accusation that she may have had anything to do with his disappearance. Police eventually look at Dy'mond Vaden's phone. On the night that George Cox went missing, the October 19th into the 20th, she had multiple Google searches on her phone. Those Google searches included, what are the chances to survive in real life if you get stabbed in the abdomen multiple times? But at this point, Your Honor, we still did not have George's body. We didn't know where he was. Detectives from the Cleveland Homicide Unit and Missing Persons Unit worked doggedly to try to find Mr. Cox, to track down every single lead that they could possibly follow. And it wasn't until May 16th of 2025 that George Cox Jr.'s body was found floating in the Huron River by two kayakers as they were out for a kayak. They saw his body.
What was the date, please?
May 16th of 2025, Your Honor, approximately 7 months after his disappearance. Police and investigators went out, found his body. He was wrapped in a sheet. That sheet matched a sheet that was found in the apartment that he went missing in, where his blood was located. And he was bound and badly decomposed. Dr. Wolf from Lucas County performed the autopsy in this case, and although he ruled the cause and manner of death undetermined, because due largely in part to the state of decomposition that the victim was in, he did state that the clandestine nature of the body disposal suggests a non-natural cause of death. And he further wrote that police investigation indicates that Mr. Cox died a violent death. So, it's a rare case where we don't have a cause and manner of death other than undetermined, but we do have that additional language. Judge, this family anguished for 7 months while they looked and tried everything they could to find their son. They reached out to everybody. They were in constant contact with Detective Callahan from the Cleveland Police Department. And that 7-month period, they didn't have the answers that they were looking for. And they got some answers when his body was found dumped like garbage in the Huron River, but they didn't get all the answers that they were looking for. I hope today, as we sentence Ms. Vaden on these charges, that some closure can come to them in the form of justice for George Cox Jr., but I know that nothing we do here in court can fill that void that's been left in their heart. I would like to, before the family speaks, Judge, highlight one message. So George Cox's body was found on May 16th of 2025. In searching Ms. Vaden's phone, the same day that George's body was found on May 16th of 2025, she sent a text message to her current boyfriend, Emmanuel McLean. They had been in an argument via text message. Mr. McLean was not responding to her, and she wrote a text message to him that said, quote, "You gonna be missing next." I think this just highlights the lack of remorse that Ms. Vaden had in this case. She knew exactly what was done to George Cox Jr., and that text message in and of itself shows that she had no remorse for what she had done.
Do you have information that she knew that the body had been found on that particular day, that she sent the text coincidentally or purposely on the same day?
That's a question that we had. We looked through the messages and looked through the news reports to attempt to ascertain that information, but it was unclear based on the timing of the text message that was sent whether anything had been publicly posted about the finding of the body. I will note that at that point they had no idea, investigators had no idea who the body was. It took them a little bit of time to identify that that was George Cox Jr., which they were able to do through tattoos that they were still able to see on his decomposed body. It was later confirmed through DNA testing that was, in fact, George Cox Jr.
I have one other question as to the facts here. Ms. Robertson, you had not asked for a pre-sentence investigation report. That's why the court will take facts from both sides, just so you understand. If I ask a question, both sides can provide the court with information. You said that he was bound and the body was badly decomposed. How was he bound?
Judge, it was, and I'm trying to remember specifically the type of rope, but it was a marine rope something you might use to tie a boat up or something of that nature.
Do you have any exhibits that you wish to show the court?
I do not, Judge.
All right. And how would you like to proceed next?
Judge, I have 4 family members from George Cox that would like to address the court. George Cox Sr., Sonia Calloway, Lynette Ford, and Candace Amos.
All right. They may come forward. Good morning. Okay, can you give me one moment, okay? So we have a court reporter right next to you, and I want to make sure that I can hear everything that you have to say. So please keep your voice up, and I'd like to hear your full name, and if it's necessary, please spell it for our court reporter, okay? All right. Go ahead.
My name is Sonia Calloway. I am the mother of George Cox Jr.
Please, what would you like to say?
I would just like to say thank you to the detectives and to the court system for diligently working to find our son. I know the story, but I do want to say that that was a tragedy that could have been avoided, and that no amount of time replaced the loss of my baby. But I do appreciate you all, and I just want to make sure that this doesn't happen to someone else's child and somebody else's family. And I want to say thank you.
I appreciate you being here today and to finding the courage to come forward and talk about this. All right. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Could you please let me know what your name is?
My name is Lynette Marie Ford.
And how do you spell your last name?
F-O-R-D.
Thank you. What would you like to say?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Jesus. And I'd like to thank the detective and all the officers that worked so diligently to find my nephew and bring this to the courts. George Cox Jr. was my first nephew, the very first. I have no children. He was like a child to me, even though he had his parents. But the joy that I used to have with him since a little child until he was grown. Last time I saw him was on my birthday, the day, July 24, 2024. This is very upsetting to me. There is no amount of time that this person could get to bring back my nephew. That person will have family to come and visit her. I'll never see my nephew again, ever. He has a daughter that she will never, probably won't even remember her father. She's only 8 years old. And Your Honor, for somebody to do what they did to my nephew, it wouldn't surprise me if they have done this before. How can somebody do something so terrible? You know, it could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. And I'm angry, Your Honor. I'm very, very upset. This has tore our family up tremendously. So bad. So bad. And it's just so heartbreaking. And it's hard for me to stand up here and be respectful, which I am trying to do, because I was raised that way. But I want to say so many things, Your Honor, and I'm asking, I'm begging you to supersede whatever plea deal that you gave this person. So please dig down in your heart and do what's right for our family. You know, just please. There is a child that's involved that will never see her father again, ever. And I'm very angry, Your Honor, and like I said, I'm trying to be very respectful. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak before you and express my feelings.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your words. So, Mr. Strang, there is a plea recommendation from the state of Ohio with the defense. It is a joint plea recommendation of 14 to 20 years on the minimum side of the Reagan-Tokes. So I understand the comments that have been made now. But was Marcy's Law complied with? Did you advise everyone that needed to be advised on the victim side here as to the state's plea arrangement with the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. I think the last speaker, I believe there was just I think she said that the plea agreement was between the court, you know, the plea agreement that you gave, that plea agreement, just for the record, is obviously extended on behalf of the state of Ohio.
All right. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And what is your name?
My name, I'm Chaplain Candace, C-A-N-D-I-C-E, Amos. Your Honor, I would also like to thank everyone, and I would like to read my statement because I would like to be very clear about my nephew and how I loved him. And I would never understand why Dy'mond Vaden murdered my nephew and tossed his body out like garbage. We will never recover from our loss. He was not garbage. He was a son, a grandson, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a cousin, a friend, and certainly not last, a father. So many functions, so many responsibilities and relationships to so many people who loved him. His daughter will never know her father. His father and mother will no longer be able to touch him and love him like parents should. His siblings will no longer be able to spend time with him. Many of the relatives and friends will not be able to talk to him. He is someone that the world will not get to know because Miss Dy'mond murdered him in cold blood. June had hopes and dreams for his adulthood like every other young person. We know people in our history that took more time to flourish life, like Tyler Perry, example, who had a rough childhood and a young adult life. But he succeeded, and he is the first African American to own a major film production studio. One of my favorite memories of June was when he was a young child playing, and we had such great hopes for him. Because of her careless attitude and her murder, she literally threw him away. The tragedy here is that she snatched away his future at a young age of 32, before he had a time to reach his full potential. June also was my first nephew by blood. As I remember June as a young child running around playing with his siblings and cousins at family cookouts, parties, and family reunions. I remember one holiday particularly, when he was a young child. He and his mother and his siblings spent Christmas Eve night at my house. We played games, watched Christmas movies, and had so much fun, Your Honor. Then early Christmas morning, we rose around 5 a.m., sat in our PJs around the Christmas tree, opening gifts and sipping hot chocolate and coffee. When June helped to prepare, and we also had pancakes that June helped to prepare, and this was the first time he had made pancakes from scratch. I remember the look in his young eyes, realizing that he could create something from scratch, and they would taste so delicious. He was so proud, and after that I called him the Pancake King because he never wanted to use pancakes from a box again. Because of memories like that were so powerful for him, he wanted to spend that time and spread it to his daughter. During the Christmas holiday again, recently before his death, June walked in my house with 2 bags full of toys for his daughter Gianna to hide at my house to take to her on Christmas Day. He wanted to hide them in my home to make sure that she would not find them. He was so dedicated and went out of his way to ensure that she would experience the Christmas magic. He wanted her to experience the joy and surprise that he experienced as a child. While there, he was laying on the floor watching TV and fell asleep. And my dog kept bothering him, licking him, and trying to get him to play with her. We were laughing because June was so irritated because he could not sleep. Even my dog recognized what a special person June was and wanted to spend time with him. June will never get to continue the experience of being a father, to watch Gianna grow up, go to college, walk Gianna down the aisles to give her away at her wedding, and or be a grandfather. His daughter will never get the time to know her father. As I said, I am a chaplain, a minister, and a Christian, and most importantly, a servant of God. Because of my belief, I know I must forgive her. God emphasizes mercy, removal of sins, and the commandment to forgive others as we have been forgiven. There are many scriptures in the King James Holy Bible that I read and study and believe. And I believe Jesus took on our sins. He died and rose all those who confess their sins. And Jesus also tells us and tells me that in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32, about kindness and forgiving. So, Yana, I am trying to forgive her, but I do think she should be punished. I am working on forgiving her so I can be set free of my anger and resentment. But I pray to God that during her time in prison, that this young lady will find God and ask for forgiveness. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the court's time.
Thank you, Chaplain Amos.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm okay.
Okay.
My name is George Cox Sr. I was George's, well, I still his daddy, just not with us no more. First, I want to just thank the prosecuting office, all the law enforcement, and in particular, Detective Callahan. I mean, he was just a godsend to our family in this tragic event. I share locations with my son, so we always knew where each other was at all times. So I knew his last known location was over on Boswell, where it appears this terrible murder happened. And I know that my sister, my aunt, and Sonia, George's mom, pretty much summed up a lot of things. I've been in contact with the prosecutor's office, so I understand what the agreement is and what you're bound by in terms of the 14 to 20 years being her sentence. But just the graphicness of this crime, you know, when we first realized George was missing, I reached out to the defendant and spoke with her. She told me, she said, "Dad, I would never do anything to hurt George." She called me Dad, knowing that my son was floating in the river somewhere with his body just decomposing, knowing that he had been hog-tied, wrapped in a sheet, drove an hour and 15 minutes away, and thrown in the water like he was just garbage and trash. And just to concur with Aunt Candy said, he wasn't trash. He was a son. He was a father. He was a nephew. He was a brother. He was a friend. He was a lot of things. May not have been perfect, but who is? But he definitely didn't deserve to die like that. Again, I understand you can only do what you can do. I understand the law. Personally, I think that some of these laws need to be changed because some things that happen need to justifiably be punished. You know, if she stabbed him in a fight and dialed 911 and my son died, we'd be having a different conversation today. But we didn't even have the opportunity to properly bury him because his body was so decomposed. This is what I wound up going to the morgue to see. This is what I had to go see. That's what I had to see, Judge. And it's so hurt And so I can't even describe it. That's something I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life. We had to cremate him because I couldn't put him in the ground looking like that. I couldn't. His daughter asked me, Granddad, why did you burn my dad up? And I'm gonna have to explain that to her one day. I mean, it's been hard on this family. And I'm the head, I'm the leader, so everybody been looking at me for answers. People wanted me to do things that would have probably had me standing here, but I wasn't gonna do that. I trusted the system, and I'm gonna trust that you do the right thing here with what you can do. I understand that you bombed, but we're gonna trust that you do that for this family. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
Let's talk about your son for a second.
Thank you.
How old are you, sir?
55,
And you're in good health?
yeah,
Was your son in good health
he was,
when he passed?
yes, he was.
And was he about your build?
No, he was a little smaller, he hadn't got the weight on him just yet.
Uh-huh. About how big would you say that he was?
Probably 185. He was 5'6", 185. I think he took his mother height.
How old was he?
32. It just turned 32. He just had a birthday, October the 6th. And I literally spoke to him the last time on the 17th. And he was calling me, asking me questions about a family situation and asking me, was he right in what he did? And we had a conversation about that. And I said, okay, well, call me later. And I never knew that would be the last time I would talk to my son. It's just so hurtful. It really is. My firstborn. I watched him come into this world and I had to see him leave out like that. It's been a nightmare. It's nothing but the grace of God that's been holding me and this family together. Because it just was just so unnecessary, you know? Leave. You know, if you don't want somebody, and from what I'm understanding, that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to leave. So, again, it's
Do you
nothing
have
to do,
do you have a different picture? One of him?
I got in my phone a slew of pictures of him in my phone. I do. I don't have one in here, but you know, and I'm sorry. I really didn't want you to, but I just want you to understand.
I appreciate you showing me what you showed, but I'm sure you concentrate on
I do.
that picture rather than the one
I
that you
do.
showed me.
My office at home is a shrine of pictures of all my children, and you know, and I don't want to say this, but in a sense, it gave me comfort because I didn't think I was gonna find my son. I didn't think I was gonna find him. You know, I really didn't. I thought that I would never see my son again. So, you know, and I'm gonna try to be the best grandfather / father that I can be to his daughter, but it's just so disappointing that, you know, she'll never get to get dropped off at school by her dad again. She'll never get to go to her prom and him give her away for a wedding or anything. You know, it's just so disappointing. It really is. Those are just pictures that kind of chronologize his life a little bit.
This would be him on the far right?
No, that's me.
That's you.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. That's when he was.
It's a few years ago.
Yeah, well, I'll say.
Is this you as well? All right.
I think that's his uncle.
Okay.
And again, like my sister said, the last time I physically saw him was for her birthday in Michigan, which, by the way, that's where I'm from, Michigan. And I also want to tell you, I traveled here 26 times in those 7 months trying to get answers for us and for the family and find my son. Just a tragic thing that just was so unnecessary, you know. And again, even after the kill, you pick the phone up to call 911, but to go to the extreme that you went to drive an hour and 15 minutes, you had time to think about all this. And then from what I'm understanding, you enlisted somebody else into this to help you dispose of his body. I mean, how selfish of an act. You know, things happen. You call 911. So
Whereabouts in Michigan?
I live in Farmington Hills, Michigan.
So you came down and around the lake, right?
Every time I come here now, when I pass Sandusky, I have to think about my son.
And you pass over the
Every time.
Huron River.
I do, every time.
All right. And that's what you did for 7 months when you would come here?
Yeah,
All right.
Yes. Not knowing that my son was riding away right near me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Strang?
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, I'd just like to thank the family and the work Detective Callahan put in on this case. Detective Callahan, I believe, wants to address the court briefly, if that would be okay, Your Honor.
Yes. Detective? Wherever you'd like.
I can come up here, Your Honor?
Yes, that's fine, sir. Yes.
Can I slide the podium over a little bit?
Yes, you may if you can. Some wires that might come with it, but that'll be all right.
All right.
Yes, that's fine.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Your Honor, I've been a police officer for nearly 30 years and have been strictly a missing persons detective for the last 15. I unfortunately have had other cases similar to the one that we're here on today. However, this is the very first time that I felt compelled to make a statement during this part of our justice system. I've been working on this case since the beginning of November of 2024 when the missing person report was initially made. Over that time, I've had the opportunity, although obviously at the worst of times, to get to know the family of George Cox Jr., particularly his father. With them, like so many other family members of missing people, the thought of not knowing where your family member is a heavy burden to carry, causing an indescribable amount of stress, anguish, and sadness that one cannot begin to understand unless going through it, including me. That is certainly the case here, and especially for his mother, who talked to George often, nearly every day. I have talked to both Mr. Cox and Ms. Calloway countless times over the past year and a half, and although I do believe they knew we were trying everything we could to find their son, I'm not sure I ever got off the phone with them thinking I did anything to ease their mind or obvious pain. That is and always will be the toughest part of my job. I will tell you this, Your Honor, one thing that I have learned over my many years of doing missing person investigations that end in homicide, there is one major difference between these cases and a homicide case with no missing person aspect. With the homicide investigation, for lack of a better description, there is closure for the family from the onset. They unfortunately know their loved one is deceased and can start the healing process right away, so to speak. With the missing person investigation that concludes in homicide, that is not the case. These families endure an additional time frame of pain and suffering, in this case 7 months, with just not knowing where their loved one is and always holding out hope, as they should, that their family member is at least alive. That's an additional 7 months of stress, sadness, pain, anxiety that the criminal justice system often overlooks, in my opinion. As always, it just didn't need to be this way. It could have been avoided had Dy'mond Vaden had an ounce of human decency. With Dy'mond Vaden, Your Honor, don't be fooled. She is well-spoken, polite, intelligent, and presents herself well. What you are looking at, Your Honor, is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Over my 30 years, Dy'mond can lie and manipulate like no one I have ever encountered. She will look you in the eye, knowingly lie, and be very believable all the same. It's a terrible talent she certainly possesses. While conducting this investigation and learning how she communicates and interacts with people before and certainly after her arrest, Dy'mond will manipulate, use, deceive anybody, including family, to get what she wants. She is the master manipulator. She has no limitations on her manipulation or deception to get what she wants. In short, everything about Dy'mond Vaden is centered around Dy'mond Vaden. On my third and final conversation with Dy'mond, I told her, other than telling me her name, everything she has told me has been a lie. No statement in this investigation is more true. I can say with certainty that Dy'mond Vaden has zero remorse. She does not have any resemblance of her moral compass. Why she is like this, I cannot say. I can say that it is not because of the way she was raised. By all accounts, her parents are good people, hardworking, ethical, and most importantly, caring. From doing missing person investigations, I've learned many things. But one thing that I've learned without question that there is a lot of kids that have terrible parents and still manage to be good, productive people despite their parents. However, and equally true, there are a lot of good parents that have terrible children to no fault of their own. That latter is certainly the case here. Dy'mond gets and deserves full credit for the person she is. This crime was horrific, Your Honor. The attempt of cleaning up the crime scene told the story of the type of person we were dealing with. The blood, Your Honor, was everywhere. Walls, floors, doors, just everywhere. Killing anyone for any reason takes a special kind of person. To knowingly, willingly, and consciously dispose of a human being in the manner that was done in this case, as they say in poker, that is going all in on the self-centered and malicious person you are. In closing, I want to thank the court for this opportunity, as well as to Prosecutor Strang and Prosecutor McNair, the County Prosecutor's Office in general, for their dedication and hard work in getting justice the Cox family and society deserve. I also want to thank the members of the Cleveland Police Homicide Unit, which are just about all here, as well as the supervisors, along with the Cleveland office of the FBI for their help and support in this investigation. Although I may be the face of this investigation, it certainly was not a one-man job. I have always and will respect the courts and their sentencing decisions in these cases, Your Honor. I respectfully request the court to impose the maximum sentence allowed, as I feel is more than warranted. Should that not be the court's decision, I do respectfully request the court to remember and consider those long 7 months the Cox family had to endure, waiting for their closure, and to add those 7 months to the end of the sentence. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Strang.
Judge, just one thing I think I would be remiss without pointing out is that we've sat here and listened to all these words from family members about George Cox and kind of come to know a little bit about their relationship with him and what type of person he is. And I can't help but think of the text message that Dy'mond Vaden sent after this homicide to her new boyfriend, saying, "You're going to be missing next," as illustrating exactly the type of person that Dy'mond Vaden is. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Robertson, then, for the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I'd like to address just first of all, the last comment made by Attorney Strang. When he initially brought up that text message, you asked him, you said, do you know when that text message was sent, if the defendant knew what was going on, et cetera, et cetera? I think it's misrepresentative to stand here and say that one line of a text message without knowing all the surrounding text messages or what was going on, what the conversation was about, to just attribute that one line to be related or somehow indicative of how she felt about this incident. And I'm going to ask the court not to give that much consideration, because as the court inquired, the state of Ohio cannot say what was being in reference to. They can't say about the conversation, and it's really, it can be misleading. Your Honor, my client, I just want to say that
we don't, first of all, we extend our sincere apology to the family. Words don't help, apologies don't help, but I just want to say that it is never, ever a good thing to see a life, anybody, young, old, or in between, being taken. And from the defense point, I do extend my sincere apology. I want to say that all of us have many different sides, and we all relate to our families different, and we all relate to our relationships different. And I thought Mr. Cox Sr. Said it well, that none of us are perfect people, and that no one, no human being should be thrown away like trash. And I can stand here, I can speak for my client, but she will speak for herself. The biggest remorse she has was the decision she made after the incident. And you know, sometimes people refer to this as being a Monday morning quarterback, or a lot of times people will look at a situation and say, if that was me, this is what I would have done. But none of us know what we would actually do if we're in a situation of this kind or that kind. And I would like to say that if there was an encounter with me and anyone, and someone ended up dead, that I would call 911, that maybe I would leave and call the police and try to get somebody there, or maybe I would try to render help. But for me to stand here in this court and say that I would definitely do X, Y, and Z would just be dishonest, because none of us know how we will react in a really stressful and difficult and horrifying situation. And how you react, it really depends on how you handle difficult things. And Your Honor, I just want to say that, again, this is a horrible situation. My client has accepted responsibility in this situation, and she too is a human being. And she's not a monster. I know the detective, Callahan, he made his remarks because all of his interactions with my client was revolving around this situation. But he didn't know her as a person. He doesn't know how she is with her family. He doesn't know how she reacts under stress. And so, I mean, he can say what he perceived under a situation. But when he's questioning her, you know, she's fighting for her life. She's trying to deal with someone who is a seasoned investigator, and she's terrified, and she's afraid. And for people to sit and say, I wouldn't lie if I was afraid, or I wouldn't mislead somebody if I was terrified, it's just not true. Many times you'll find somebody in a difficult situation, and then what they do is every decision they make after that makes that situation worse. And that's what we have here. We don't have a monster. We have someone that was in a horrible situation. The situation got bad when Mr. Cox passed away, and then every single decision that was made after that was a bad decision. But those bad decisions does not erase the human being that was before this whole entire tragedy occurred. And I'm asking the court to consider that, and to consider that many times you have really good people. You know, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have judges who are amazing people in public and not so amazing people in private and in their relationships. And I'm asking the court to consider that. Thank you. And one other thing, Your Honor.
Yes.
I would like to say that while Ms. Vaden's family is not going to speak, she does have, and I appreciate the detective, he did say that, you know, he's interacted with her family. She has a loving family. She has a strong family. She does not have an enabling family. She does not have a family that thinks everything she does is okay and that would ever condone any decisions she made in this situation. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Vaden, this is your sentencing, so you have an opportunity to speak to the court. Would you like to speak? What would you like to say?
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's very unfortunate that two families are here today. What I do want to say is there have been situations that I've been in that I have walked away from due to violence. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised in a household with a guy putting their hands on a woman. So there was a lot of times where I had to walk away from a situation other than being left from a situation. So I do regret, and I do think about it every day, that I wasn't able to help him, that I wasn't able to call the police because I panicked. I walked away from a situation that was very, 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 it was just a lot. It was a lot for me to deal with, and I truly am very, very sorry for what happened to George. Me and George had an up and down relationship. It was good, it was bad, it was not always perfect, but I am a person that is a loving and caring person. And one thing about me, I'm not a person that's going to hurt you for no reason, or I'm not a type of person that's just going to just bully you or just put you in harm's way. So I do want to say I'm sorry for the family. I have got to know them. They really didn't get to know me, so they just seen one side of a relationship. They didn't really see the side, that I brought. But I do appreciate my family for supporting me. They've been here through this whole process. Mentally, I'm still trying to figure everything out, but it was a reason why God brought me here, to keep me safe, honestly. Because I actually was not safe. I was not safe with him, and I was not safe in the community. And like I said, it's unfortunate, but I'm very, very, very sorry. Thank you.
Ms. Vaden, your attorney advises the court that your family is not an enabling family, and I've heard from the detective that you were brought up in a good family with good examples. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
They taught you not to lie, I take it, yes?
All the time.
You called Mr. Cox's father Dad? So you did get to know him to some extent, and he got to know you enough for you to feel comfortable with him to call him Dad, yes?
I'm going to say no, because I really just was in his home, so it was kind of like respectful. Didn't call him his first name, so I just felt like that was best. But we never really had a relationship. It was just kind of just, whatever George wanted me to do, that's what I would do.
He asked you what happened to his son?
He asked me, but it really wasn't.
You lied to him? What he said earlier was true?
No.
Well, did you tell him I would never do anything to your son?
No.
What did you say to him when he asked you where his son was?
I kind of was still like way mentally not all the way there.
I didn't ask that. I asked, what did you say to him?
I didn't know.
You said you didn't know. Were there other family members that asked you?
Yes.
Who would that have been?
Aunt?
And what did you tell her?
No.
You said what to her?
I didn't know
Anyone else?
that I didn't know what happened to George.
Yeah, how many times would you have said that to his family members?
Twice.
Did people in your family ask you?
No.
So, you said to the court that it was a lot. You said that you were truly very sorry for what happened to George. What happened to George?
George died. So, like my lawyer told me, she didn't want me to make it about me, but I felt that it would be better if I was to.
How did he die? What happened?
He was beat up and he was stabbed.
By?
By me.
Did you do this Google search? Asking if somebody was stabbed in the abdomen, how long it would take them to
Yes.
survive?
Yes.
Was he alive after you had stabbed him in the abdomen? And he was bleeding out? So you had an opportunity to call 911 on his behalf? The detective said that there's blood all over the house. Did he go to different areas of the house while he was bleeding? Was he unable to get to the phone? And why was that?
He was kind of just like in shock, I guess. He kept falling and I was basically trying to stop him from moving so I could help him.
Did he want to leave the house?
No.
Did he ask you to call for help?
He just told me to save him, try to save him.
And why didn't you?
Save him?
He's asking, he's bleeding out, there's blood all over the house. This has taken a long period of time. You've Google searched, how long does it take someone to die after being stabbed in the abdomen multiple times?
Just panic. I panicked.
You would rather have seen him die then than get help? This was your Google search, right? How long does it take someone to die? Yes? How long did it take him to die in your presence?
Well, I'm not sure. Everything was just happening so fast, Your Honor. I've never been in a situation like that before, so it wasn't. We were fighting. We were fighting to try to save him. I did everything I can to try to save him. I just did not call the police, and I regret that.
How did you move him?
I left the scene and people that I knew
This is your statement. It's your allocution. People you knew what?
People I knew, they came over to the house and I just basically just told them that I couldn't be there, so they got rid of him. And they threatened me to not to say anything to the police, or they was gonna basically confine me and my family.
But these are people that you were close enough to,
I really
They-
wasn't close to them.
people you felt you could trust to do that job for you, yes?
Basically.
Your Honor, we've shared that information with the state of Ohio.
Well, that's good. I don't have any facts. You didn't ask for a pre-sentence investigation report. I advised you, if you were going to do this without a pre-sentence investigation report, that I would have questions at the time of sentencing. And these are logical questions that I think the court should be apprised of. I'd be happy to continue this matter and get a full pre-sentence investigation. And if you wish, you can provide that information to the court even right now, if you have it in documentary form.
I've already shared it with the state of Ohio.
I'm saying me. If you wish to share it, you may. But clearly, this is a sentencing where the court is trying to obtain information. And it doesn't have available to it. So, Ms. Vaden, these people that helped you, who are they?
Just people that I know around that community. William Rogers and Donald Humphrey.
So a sheet from your residence was used?
Pardon?
A sheet from your residence was used, yes?
It wasn't my residence, it was George's residence.
And where did that come from?
His home.
Off of the bed?
On the floor, yeah, on the floor.
It was on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then where did the rope come from?
Well, like I said, I left the scene, so I don't know. I just kind of just left the scene and they went to the apartment.
But you knew they were going to use the sheet.
I didn't know what they were going to do. I just knew that I had a mess and I panicked and left.
And then you cleaned up afterwards?
No, I didn't clean. I never went back.
I hear that you were questioned by the detective, yes?
Yes.
And during that questioning, did you confess to stabbing? At that time, did you lie to the police as well? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, I see you shaking your head. And about how long was that after this took place?
I didn't talk to the police again.
What, you were interviewed by the police, yes?
Yes.
Do you remember when that was?
That was, I'm not sure the actual date, but after that interview, I didn't talk to the detectives anymore.
What was the date that you stabbed to death Mr. Cox?
I want to say the 18th of October.
Do we have a date of the statement, Mr. Strang?
2024, Your Honor.
All right. And in that statement, you advised the detective that you weren't present? You don't know what happened?
Yes.
Did the gentleman that you mentioned tell you where they had put the body?
No, once I left, no,
And did you ever speak to them again?
no.
How did you know you could trust them to do this?
I didn't know I could trust them. I just knew that they would come, maybe, if I didn't tell on them.
How long were you dating Mr. Cox?
On and off about 4 years.
You mentioned that was his residence, so you didn't reside there with him? But you met his daughter
Yeah, I met his daughter.
frequently?
No,
Like a number of times, or? No? All right. You had your own place that you could stay, yes? So you weren't trapped in like a residence situation with him where you couldn't leave and go to your own place, correct?
yeah.
All right. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Yes.
Go ahead.
This situation is very traumatizing for me, but I'm still remorseful and I still regret the day that it happened. I think about it every day, and mentally, I'll never forget.
All right, thank you very much. You may be seated. All right. When the defendant did enter a change of plea, it was understood by both of the parties that were making an agreed recommended sentence to the court that there would have to be a period of consecutive time. Is that correct, Mr. Strang?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And Ms. Robertson?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right, the defendant had pled guilty to count number 1 as amended. It was a murder charge. The state of Ohio entered into a plea arrangement with the defense to amend count number 1 to involuntary manslaughter, a felony of the first degree, a violation of 2903.04a. As a felony of the first degree, there's an indefinite term of incarceration with a minimum period of time and a maximum period of time that was discussed. And the defendant was fully apprised of all of that. Count number 3 is also an indefinite period of time. This is a felonious assault felony of the second degree, a violation of 2903.11a1. And the court advised the defendant of the Reagan-Tokes advisement, and she did sign that as well on that date with her counsel. And we did review all of the language there. The court's obliged to do this at the time of sentencing per the case law. So I'm advising you again the same things that we talked about before. I want to make sure that you understood them then and you understand them now. Do you understand, Ms. Vaden? All right. So I'm reading to you, and I'll have this placed right in front of you again. Okay, as this is being handed to you, Ms. Robertson, you'll see that your attorney's signature is there. That was done in front of me, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And Ms. Vaden, that is your signature that you understood all of this, yes?
Yes.
All right, so let us read this again together. The defendant has also been notified, paragraph 1, that it is rebuttably presumed that the offender will be released from the service of the sentence on the expiration of the minimum prison term imposed as part of the sentence or on the offender's presumptive earned early release date as defined in section 2967.271 of the revised code, whichever is earlier, and paragraph 2, that the Department of Rehabilitation and Correction may rebut the presumption described in division B2C1 of this section if at a hearing held under section 2967.271 of the revised code, the department makes specified determinations regarding the offender's conduct while confined, the offender's rehabilitation, the offender's threat to society, the offender's restrictive housing, if any, while confined, and the offender's security classification. Paragraph 3, that if as described in Division B2C2 of this section, the Department at the hearing makes the specified determinations and rebuts the presumption, the Department may maintain the offender's incarceration after the expiration of that minimum term or after that presumptive earned early release date for the length of time the Department determines to be reasonable, subject to the limitations specified in Section 2967.271 of the revised code. Paragraph 4, that the Department may make the specified determinations and maintain the offender's incarceration under the provisions described in Divisions B2, C1, and 2 of this section more than one time, subject to the limitations specified in Section 2967.271 of the revised code. Paragraph 5, that if the offender has not been released prior to the expiration of the offender's maximum prison term imposed as part of the sentence, the offender must be released upon the expiration of that term. Ms. Vaden, do you understand all of these paragraphs, and did you understand them at the time of your change of plea? All right. Prior to coming to the bench, the court did have the opportunity to review the entire case file. Although there was not a pre-sentence investigation report requested by the defense, the court has inquired as to the facts, and both parties have had the opportunity to speak to the court and answer any questions and provide any information. I've reviewed 2929.11 for the principles and purposes of sentencing, 2929.12 for the seriousness and recidivism factors, and 2929.13 and other revised code sections for felony sentencing. The court has formulated the following decision based upon the overriding principles and purposes of felony sentencing, which are to protect the public from future crime by the defendant or others and to punish the offender using the minimum sanctions that the court determines accomplishes those purposes without imposing an unnecessary burden on state or local government resources. To achieve these purposes, the court has considered the need for incapacitation, deterrence, rehabilitation, and providing for restitution, and the court has considered the relevant sentencing guidelines provided in revised codes 2929.11, 2929.12, and 2929.13, as well as 2929.19. At the time of the plea, it was agreed that the offenses that the defendant pled guilty to would be non-allied offenses of similar import, and that there was an agreed recommended sentence of 14 to 20 years with no early release. That period of time being on the, I should say, not including the Reagan-Tokes indefinite period, or in other words, the maximum sentence. The court will follow the party's recommendation and sentence within the range. As such, there will be a consecutive sentence, and the court has reviewed each of these crimes that have been committed here. And the court will note that it is employing consecutive sentences consistent with the party's agreement, and also pursuant to 2929.14C4B, the court imposes prison terms consecutively, finding that the consecutive service is necessary to protect the public from future crime or to punish the defendant, that the consecutive sentences are not disproportionate to the seriousness of the defendant's conduct and to the danger defendant poses to the public, and that at least 2 of the multiple offenses were committed in this case as part of 1 or more courses of conduct, and the harm caused by said multiple offenses was so great or unusual that no single prison term for any of the offenses committed as part of any of the courses of conduct adequately reflects the seriousness of the defendant's conduct. The court also imposes consecutive sentences pursuant to 2929.14C4C, finding that consecutive sentence service is necessary to protect the public from future crime or to punish the defendant, that the consecutive sentences are not disproportionate to the seriousness of the defendant's conduct and to the danger defendant poses to the public, and that defendant's history of criminal conduct demonstrates that consecutive sentences are necessary to protect the public from future crime by the defendant. Ms. Vaden, did Mr. McQueen help dispose of that body? Why did you send that text message?
Due to what I was
I'm sorry?
Due to what I was going through, he wasn't answering the phone, and it was kind of supposed to be like a message basically saying, "Are you okay?" Like basically like, call me, make sure you're okay, because I don't want you to be missing like next. It's kind of supposed to be like a, you know what I'm going through, please don't, like put me in a situation where it was just kind of like a
The text is, you are going to be missing next.
yes, but like I said, it was a message. We were texting, and it was like a message, basically me checking on his whereabouts to make sure that he was
For
okay.
his welfare. Okay, understood. All right, I'll take that then, as you say. I have reviewed the counsel's sentencing memorandum as well. As to the involuntary manslaughter, felony to the first degree, the court will sentence you to a period of 11 years. That is the maximum sentence on that count. This will be the qualifying offense. As such, per Reagan-Tokes, there's a 5.5-year additional time that is possible pursuant to the language that I've already read to you. On this count alone, you are to serve a minimum prison term of 11 years. with an indefinite prison term of 5.5 years. On this count alone, then, that would be for a maximum prison term of 16.5 years. As to count number 3, this is the felonious assault felony of the second degree. The court imposes a prison term of 8 years, which will be run consecutively. As to the gross abuse of a corpse felony of the 5th degree. Where you employed the use of other people. With such careful intention to have them packaged up, and the knowledge over a 7-month period to the harm caused to the family, the court will sentence you to 7 months. All of that period of time will also be consecutive pursuant to the court's findings. Your sentence is 19 years and 7 months. You are to serve a minimum prison term of 19 years and 7 months with an indefinite prison term of 5.5 years. For the maximum prison term, then, I believe 25.2 years, or 25, I should say 25 years, 2 months. The court will ensure that the math is appropriate. Mr. Carson?
Yes, Judge, we agree with that calculation. We just wanted to make sure there was a PRC advisement if that had already been done.
Have not done that yet. No.
Thank you.
On the felony of the 1st degree involuntary manslaughter, there's a mandatory minimum of 2 years up to a maximum of 5 years of post-release control supervision. On the felony of the 2nd degree, there's a mandatory minimum of 18 months up to a maximum of 3 years of adult parole supervision. On the felony of the 5th degree for the gross abuse of a corpse, the adult parole authority has the ability to supervise you for a period of up to 2 years. It's at their discretion, or in other words, their choice. And if you violate any post-release control rule or condition, you may be subjected to a more restrictive rule or condition, a longer duration under supervision, or you could be sent back to prison even though you have done all the time to which you have been sentenced. You could get up to 9 months in prison for each rule violation. The total, however, for all rule violations cannot be any more than 1/2 of the prison sentence that you receive, unless the rule violations for the commission of a new felony, in which case you could receive a prison term of the greater of 1 year or the time remaining on post-release control, in addition to any time that you receive for the new felony. The post-release control prison term must be served consecutively, which means one after the other, to any prison term that you receive for the new felony. The court will take back that Reagan Tokes advisement form from you after the proceedings here. And there is credit for time served in this matter, which the court has calculated. 234 days, which the court will put in the journal entry so we can have a clear record of that. Ms. Robertson, as to your motion, as to the defendant, yes.
Cost of these, right?
All right. The court will waive court costs and fees, finding the defendant to be indigent, and will not assess those. Mr. Strang or Mr. Mr. Strang or Mr. McNair, any further issues from the state?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Ms. Robertson?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I would expect deputies who will have to be able to leave first.